Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Team Engagement Live session today. I'm thrilled that you could all join us. For those that are returning, welcome back. For those that are new, my name is Noelle Smit. I'm the CEO and co-founder of TeamGage, and we are the world's first team engagement platform. And we basically take the on-field huddle used by sports teams, where they break from the game and look at what are we doing well, what do we need to address and improve. Are we all working together to achieve the win? We kind of take that on field into the workplace through our technology. I am thrilled today to be joined by Jeremy Scrivens. Jeremy, I've got a bio here, so I'll just read it out. Jeremy is an appreciative futurist and collaboration and innovation catalyst. He is director of the emotional economy at work and a global thought leader and consultant on building collaboration in a digital world for innovation, social good, and the future of work. Jeremy is known for his work to assist today's leaders to engage their workforce, to collaborate and co-create their own desired futures. Welcome, Jeremy.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you today.
We almost got caught out by the start time here at 12:30/1 o'clock because we were immersed in our conversation already. So we'll just sort of revisit some of the things we've already been talking about today. But, you know, one of the things I think would be great to start with, you talk about us moving our language from this great resignation that everyone's talking about onto the great awakening. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, the great resignation is this idea of, people who have basically escaped from the building, if you like, or been sent away from the building during COVID, long enough to find out what's really important to them in their work and their life. And they are taking time out to reflect. In our busy worlds of work, we've had an industrial model of work which requires us to measure everything in terms of speed and efficiency, and no downtime. So we've not built in this reflective time, and we've also over the years separated life from work. So when I first joined work in 1978, my gosh, a long time ago that was, as a graduate intern in HR, I had a job description. So the job description took a fraction of Jeremy and called that work.
Yeah.
But now the work is shifting from the idea of the focus on the job to the focus on the individual in their life work journey. So the technologies now are convergent technologies, which means they bring everything together to see from the wholeness of things. That life and work were never meant to be separated. They were communities of work before the Industrial Revolution took people out of those communities and into these massive, siloed, monolithic organizations and factories.
Yeah.
And we got out of those buildings long enough to breathe again.
Yes.
And to reflect on what was important. We all had the Zoom calls with the cats and dogs and kids running over us, and everyone looked the same in their jeans and t-shirts. So there was an equalizer effect here, and the conversations became more meaningful, more intimate, and more engaging for people. So what I've been seeing is the opposite of the Great Resignation. What that actually means is that, for example, NAB produced a report in March saying that between 20 to 25% of the Australian workforce will leave their jobs in 2022 because they have discovered they need more meaning and purpose in their work. So what I do in my work now is to identify the topics that really matter to people now, and to work with leaders in their organizations to take this as an opportunity, not to see this as a problem, the Great Resignation, but as a great awakening.
Yes.
In the conversations and the tools, and using technology for good and for intrinsic engagement now, because we're in an extraordinary time. The word crisis means the turning point in the disease. It also means looking for what is vital, and an opportunity to engage in the shift in a very essence of being. So we all talk about COVID as a crisis in terms of the negative.
Yeah.
But what about seeing it as a positive, where we can switch the lens in terms of having conversations around what matters to us now? The challenge, of course, is equipping our leaders how to do that, which is what I get up in the morning to try and do.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting, isn't it? Because from an individual or an employee perspective, it is really exciting to think that we maybe are saying, oh, this job, it's boring, spending all my time doing this. We spend more time at work than at home with our family, with our friends. So we should be finding meaning and purpose and alignment to that in the workplace. So I think from the individual point of view, it's really exciting. But you're right. I think from a leader, from an employer point of view, it can be a little bit daunting to sort of go, how do we tap into that to attract people and good people? You talk about 5, or perhaps now it's 6. There might be a 6th trend. Trends that are happening as part of this awakening. Maybe you can take us through them.
Well, it's interesting. It's basically 6 trends. And what I did, I took some time out, literally a couple of weeks out, a few weeks ago, to really just do a massive trawl on Google to find out just what were the topics and the research now coming out around what I call modern working. Because that's what we're now shifting into, #modern working. It's not just about hybrid working or remote working. It's actually about reframing modern working, which is a much bigger idea. And I was amazed at what came out. And I just summarize this in terms of six topics which people care about now in the conversations that they have with their colleagues and their leaders in the workplace. First one is meaning and purpose. Second is collective values. Third is vital conversations. Fourth is care and kindness. Fifth is appreciation and recognition. And sixth is meaningful technology. And there's a constant theme between all of them have their own individual conversations, but they're also connected as well. Yeah.
So maybe, we talk a lot about meaning and purpose in work in these interviews. So maybe we could leave that one for another day, but maybe if you want to take us through some of the others, collective values, kindness and care, and especially that 6th one, meaningful tech. I think that's an interesting one to sort of understand. What do you mean by that?
Let's do a couple. Let's do collective values. I'll do a couple of these, but they are very much connected. They're actually, these are, let me just make this point. These are all entry points into a conversation. So you can use one. So organizations will have different requirements or be at different parts in their journey right now. You can enter a human system at different parts. I think they all lead to the same set of tools at the end of the day, which are a strengths-based set of tools around taking the time out to identify our strengths and to bring those strengths together to do more with more. There is a trend now. I'll come back. I'll sort of bring all this together, but basically in a nutshell, most managers and leaders have been taught to do more with less. Yeah. The whole purpose of tech, Lean, Six Sigma, technologies, automation has been, how do we do more with less? The conversation is around efficiency and cost. And of course, money's always there. Yeah. And I'll give you a quick idea that was the case when I worked with during lockdown with a mushroom farm that was struggling under the banner or the mantra of doing more with less. They were being basically there was price cutting by the supermarkets, who are their major client. Yeah. Now I deploy an approach called Appreciative Inquiry, which is not mine. I've been using it for a number of years. It's now around the world. It's an incredible set of conversations around bringing the whole system or everyone in the room to create the future. That's not always been the case. In fact, in most organizations, not everyone in the room creates the future. It's the executive team with their advisors and a handful of people, right? That's the top-down model of creativity. Collective values. Well, we now know that people want not only to be engaged around their personal why, but they also want to work with organizations that are pursuing single truth. Forrester, the massive research company, did an amazing piece of research recently to identify that the millennials of Gen Z during COVID have called out the need to work for organizations that enable them to work the truth. These are not conversations I had as a baby boomer, for heaven's sake. They scared the pants off most leaders, because how do you have a conversation with someone around single truth? Well, the answer is use a strength-based approach to find out what truth already exists, what truth already looks like. And then you take the time out to identify how you can reframe, recalibrate that truth to meet the needs of the future. So in a very quickly, I had this situation where we had the CEO of this mushroom company in a panic, called me to say, can you work with our guys? I said, why? Because the supermarkets have dropped the price of our mushrooms. I like the idea of getting all our people together. We don't do it. Let's spend the whole day talking about taking out cost. And I said, so let me understand this. When you've got your grandchild on your knee, she'll look up to you and she'll say in 25 years time, what did you do with your life? What was your purpose? What was your meaning? And you'll say you spent your whole life taking out cost. And he sort of had a couple of swear words there. And I said, you're shooting the messenger. And just to fast forward very quickly, what we did, I got him to reframe the conversation from something about cost and survival to something he was passionate about, which was how to use his mushrooms to get into the mouths of ordinary Australian kids to reduce obesity levels of kids in Australia.
Yeah.
And he got up on a cold morning in Adelaide and had in the room with him his Somali refugee labourers and his young Thai women who were going to university but only hired with their hands to pick the fruit. He asked them to co-create a future and around how to innovate and get into the schools and how to engage his kids in eating well and their parents. And they did that together as equal members in that room, and they shifted from survival to growth. Every person shared their personal story of what it meant to be alive and thriving in their work.
Yeah, wow.
They engaged their personal why and they engaged their collective values, and then together they created the future and they innovated using technology, and they began to start a social movement. And guess what? They came up with a business plan to bypass the supermarkets.
Oh, there you go.
Now that's an example of a whole human system shifting the conversation to the intrinsic. He never talked to anyone about what social good was.
Yeah.
He never thought it was important. It was a dream he had with his wife, but we shifted that to something that's really important. You can imagine how the Gen Zs would pick up a thing like that and say, I want to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's not just about sort of attracting new talent, which is obviously a real challenge at the moment, but also keeping the people that are already there. Suddenly, I'm imagining their engagement lifted because they were there for a reason and not just to tick boxes, to put numbers in, whatever the day-to-day task was. They could see that higher purpose. And I think that's absolutely critical. And it's why we all want to...
And they can also be part of shaping that purpose, because the idea of the colour, also they said, let's collaborate with a master chef and create recipes for the kids and collaborate. And because these young workers are naturally wired around collaboration, much more so than the siloed nature of things we've been used to in our organizations.
I think that's a wonderful example of sharing a purpose and taking time out to have some conversations about it. So, I think there would have been an argument to say, when we're trying to cut costs, we can't have every worker sit still for a day to have a conversation. The cost of doing that will be huge. But, the benefit that you can drive out of having a meaningful conversation with your people can far outweigh any cost it might take to do. I think that's...
And you can put those conversations to work to create a vibrant future for the organization and the individual. But it starts with the individual. In that mushroom farm, we asked each individual person first what they cared about and what were the topics around growth and vitality for them. And all that, as they shared all those conversations, something powerful emerged, which was the positive core, what it meant to be a collective community working together. And then they looked to dream together about if we went to the world with this new understanding of who we really are, what's possible as a business.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I'm a CEO of a tech company, so I can't go past your last point around meaningful tech. I think that's a phrase not many people would have heard of before. So take us through that.
So Elmo, for example, who are an Australian HR tech company, did run employee sentiment indices, and one they did last year was quite significant. And they asked me to do a commentary on it. What they said was that in their research around, again, what's important to employees right now during the pandemic, they said issues like mental health, well-being, collaborative working, and change, being involved in change making, are absolutely critical. They also said that that employers employees want technology that will take out the drudge in the work so that they can be released, not to be fired as redundant, but to be released for meaningful conversations and deeper, authentic connectivity with other people as human beings. Now, isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah, that's great. I think it's exciting as well, because we may get there one day, but at the moment, automation, AI, where it falls short compared to the human is that creativity. And I guess part of creativity is that sort of tying into higher purposes and things like that. So it is almost like using tech to free us up for our higher skills. I think that's exciting.
I talk about two streams now in the future of tech, or the future of work. The first stream, which continues to use the tech for the conversation around doing more with less.
Yep.
Or second stream, which looks to put people at the center to do more with more. And my work now, I use Appreciative Inquiry and a range of other strengths-based tools to come alongside and work with those organizations and with their tech partners to engage their people in the conversations around creating their future stories, and then overlaying the technology on it to enable those stories to be enabled at scale.
Yeah. Well, I love that. That is definitely close to my heart. With we talk about TeamGauge. We're a unique software company in that we actually don't want people to spend more time in our technology, right? Lots of companies that, how can we get people spending more time in their software? And for us, it's like, we want to facilitate more conversations that are happening at the right time with the right people. So that definitely resonates with me. And I think if we can do more of that, those, I say it again, but those meaningful conversations in our teams, people can work through the most amazing challenges together when we give them time and space to do that.
Just quickly, I'm working with Tony Delaney and Brownie Points, which is a software company that has a recognition platform. Tony knows that we're moving towards intrinsic recognition, not external reward. So I work with him to create a cultural appreciation syllabus, which allows an organization's people to come together to create their future story with a rhythm of kindness, giving, gratitude and thanksgiving at the heartbeat of daily working and sharing those stories. We don't get to the tech until the third or fourth conversation.
Yeah, okay.
But when we get to the tech has more meaning.
Yeah.
Because it's a tool that comes in seamlessly behind the conversations to help those stories to be told. And so you don't see or hear the tech, but it's working in an incredibly powerful way, because we've done the work to focus on what matters first, the stories and the culture and the experience, yeah, and then the technology flows in behind it. Most tech companies, no disrespect, still don't do that. They start with the tech solutions first.
Yeah.
Because there's not with the opportunity to change the story and the conversations in the organization. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got a couple of minutes. I can probably throw one last thing for you to you. Look, I think there's one thing we've touched on previously together, which might be good just to talk to, and that is, you've made this comment: small groups can change the world. So maybe you could just quickly share with us some of the why you see that's possible today.
I think the technology there's a paradox or a tension in the new technologies. One, they enable us to connect at scale globally, but they also allow us to become more intimate with each other as small groups. Organizations, there's no such thing as an organization per se. Organizations are made up of multiple numbers of small groups. So we need to go back into being intimate together. Groups of 6 to 8 people can change the world. The idea is how to become more intimate with each other, release our strengths, our talents, combine our strengths, do meaningful work together, but then connect with others. Become the new form of agile organization, which is actually an organization as a community, which is connected authentically, locally, grounded locally, in other words, grounded, but connected globally. So you can tap into, so the idea is that ecosystems now are the bigger idea, ecosystem leadership. So you can tap into resources and talent all around the world to get jobs done and to engage in ideation platforms. And again, there's a need to equip our leaders in how to open up, because we're not very good at opening up in Australia. We've got firewalls, and it's all what you can't do in social media, rather what you can. But that's another part of my work now, is to break down those silos, open up, so we can become the small, intimate groups again, but connected for significant contribution at scale.
Yeah. Well, I certainly love that. I think, you know, one of the things we talk about is engaged employees are great, but an engaged team is so much more powerful. And that's what changes the world, which is exactly what you're saying. So we better wrap it up. We've hit 20 minutes. It does fly by. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I loved hearing that story. It was such a great example about the mushroom farm. And I think it just, those trends around why conversations are important, why values and purpose are important, that was such a great example in real life of why. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We have a link to feedback in the comments. I think they'll be emailed to you as well, but we always love hearing your feedback and how we can improve. And thank you so much for listening today, and Jeremy, for your time.
Pleasure. Enjoy.
See you all.
Bye, everyone.